Horshetuhi ka'at lashanka ka'at ra'at Corrina. In our language, the Chochenyo language of the East Bay, I said good morning. I'm Corrina Gould. I am the tribal chair for the Confederated Villages of Lisjan Nation, on whose land you are on today. This is a place called Huchiun. Can you guys say that? Huchiun. Huchiun. You know, it's a funny story that for many years, as we were bringing back the language has been asleep for about 100 years. My great-grandfather, Jose Guzman, was one of the last speakers of the language. We find ourselves in this place now called the East Bay, this place that sits in the shadows of Mount Tiushtak, the mountain that you see in this picture, the mountain that we are created from, that our confederation of tribes. We are what is now known generically as Ohlone and Bay Miwok and Plains Miwok and Patwin. And we are people that were enslaved at Mission Dolores in San Francisco and Mission San Jose in Fremont, California. And that of all the thousands of people that have come and made this their home, that there are people that speak many different languages. And in this room, there are probably many people that speak a lot of different languages. But the language that I just spoke to you in today is a language that has been asleep. Imagine that language needs to be reawakened. Languages are created from the lands and the airs and the waters where they are from, the people that are there. Mount Tiushtak is a place now known as Mount Diablo. For thousands of years, it was the creation story of our people, of all of those different tribes that were created on the top of that mountain and went out to all of the different places and made sure that those places were taken care of for thousands and thousands of years. My ancestors were a part of that. When settlers came here, they renamed that mountain Mount Diablo, or Devil's Mountain. So imagine for thousands of years going from a place of creation to a mountain of devils, right? It begins to change the language and the landscape of where you are. So today, you're in our homelands, homelands that are not only Alameda County, but Contra Costa, San Joaquin, parts of Napa and Solano, lands that we are still responsible for taking care of. But we do our ancestral callings, like this little bee. And we're beginning to see these bees come out and they do their ancestral callings. They don't ask permission to do the work that they're supposed to do. During the springtime, they show up with the flowers and they pollinate our foods and medicines so that we can survive. And yet we don't take good enough care of our earth. And so today, and over the next few days, all of you will be bringing your good minds and good hearts together to begin to think about what we are supposed to do as human beings to ensure not just our survival, but the survival of all of those that are more than human, that give their lives so that we may live. We forget that sometimes that we forget that these little tiny beings, that we would not survive without them, and that we would have a hard time. Today, as we look around the world, we're looking at a time that's really difficult, and that we are going to rely on one another in order for us to survive this next move, this next change, this next turn of the world. And in doing so, we have to begin to look over the last few hundred years and what have human beings done, and how can we fix it now? This oak tree is hundreds of years old. She sat there for years and years, and she watched people come and go. She fed my ancestors and continues to feed us. She's rooted in the ground where water comes up through her trunk. And she continues to provide shade and strength. Imagine children climbing these trees. That these are places that we look. One city over, it's called Oakland, because there was a forest of oak trees that was there at one time. And we remember the strength that we are rooted in. We are rooted in this place Today and over the next few days, I hope you find that rootedness, that you find a tree to stand under, that you put your back against that tree and you ask them what you should do, that you put your feet firmly on the ground and root yourself, even through all of the beauty of seeing each other and the conversations and the laughter, that we still find those times of peace, even in an urban setting. We look for ourselves to make changes. And I have this one little story. And I don't know how many of you grew up in a time where there was these things in school called weekly readers. When I was going to school, there was these weekly readers, right? And in these weekly readers, I remember a story when I was about 7 or 8 years old. And in this weekly reader, it talked about the brown pelican and how the brown pelican was going to be extinct, right? And I kept that story with me. You know how sometimes when you're a kid, stories stay with you, right? We were on a walk to our sacred sites during 2009 when we walked with people from all over the world to all of our sacred sites in the Bay Area. We did a 300-mile trek to these sacred places. We were in Alviso, where the salt ponds are, and we were there at daybreak. And while we were there praying for the day's walk, about 50 brown pelicans went overhead. I knew that in my lifetime, human beings had made changes so that those brown pelicans could still exist today. We know that if we change the way we are, to change some of the behaviors that we have in a very short amount of time, within our lifetimes, we could actually free some of the horrible things that have happened. I want to thank you for being here on my territory. I thank you for coming and bringing your good hearts and minds. I ask that you support our local Indigenous Women-led Land Trust and pay Shumi while you're here. Pull out your cell phones and go to our website. Follow us on social media and follow all of the Indigenous people on whose lands you're on to do the work that needs to be done to save all of humanity and those that are more than human. Thank you so much.